Working on today is doing a very simple demo of Amazon AWS RDS. We will create a simple instance to MySQL. Then we will use MySQL Workbench for creating a couple tables and filling in a little bit of data. The purpose for this demo is to build upon it so that for the next demo we do a very simple AWS Lambda demo. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is from the ground up. I have nothing on my system that I need in order to connect. So first what we're going to do is log on to AWS. Okay. All right, so this is Firefox. Normally I use Chrome, but I use Chrome for work. So in order to keep all my credentials and all my smart logons separate, I'm using Firefox for this, but I'll use Chrome for doing my actual research that we'll need in a minute. Okay, I don't want to save my password. All right, so now we're logged into the AWS console. Up on the right-hand side, you'll see the region that I'm in, my username, I'm David Ellig. And what we want to do is we want to go to RDS. So one of the things that we can do is, you can see it right here at the top left, but one of the convenient things with AWS is you can always do a quick little search to make things a little bit faster to find. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to select MySQL as my database. By the way, I'm using the free tier for my personal account with AWS. So I want to make sure that I'm selecting the free usage tier under development and test. Okay, so now we need to fill out some details. Generally what I do is I take the defaults, except where I don't have a choice. Since we're doing the free tier, the smallest instance class is what we're going to select. And I believe that's the only one we're able to select for the free tier, or unless we want to start incurring charges against our account. So I don't really care about multi-zone deployment for this because this is just a demo, so I'm going to say no. But if you want this to be deployed to multiple regions around the world, you'd want to say yes. And then there's some other configurations that you'd want to do for that. All right. So I'm going to ignore this risk and I'm going to move down. I'm going to give my instance an identifier. And for this, I'm going to call it simple demo. And then for my master username, I'm going to call it demo _user. And for my password will be simple demo. And what I do is I always save some notes as I'm going along, so I'm just going to grab those. You'll notice I left my stickies on the right hand side so I can grab some things and keep a record of those until I get a chance to archive this. And for the password, I give it simple demo. You can give yours whatever you want. Okay, so now we've gone on to advanced settings. What we're going to do for this is we're going to let it create our own security group. That's the default setting, and what that will allow is it will allow for my IP address to connect. So we'll go ahead and choose that. For the database name, I'm going to also call it simple demo. And we're going to take all the defaults here. So life is good. So we're going to go ahead and launch this instance. Okay, so now it's being created, and this is going to take a couple minutes. So we're just going to leave this open in the background, and while it's going, I'm going to go ahead and launch Chrome. Let's make this a little bit smaller for you. And I like to have my windows overlap a little bit so that I can quickly drag, click. Okay, so in Chrome, what I'm going to do is I'm going to download MySQL Workbench. Again, in the background, my RDS instance with AWS is being created, so it's busy. There's nothing that can be done. If you look at the status, you'll see it still says creating. So I'm just going to leave that there. And we're going to go to Oracle, and we're going to download MySQL Workbench. Okay, so I am on OS X, and it's intelligent enough to determine that. I'm not going to log on. I'm going to say no thanks. Just start my download. And it is downloaded, so I'm going to go ahead and open it when done. And you should see a disk image pop up on my right-hand corner there. And Mac installs are pretty simple. You just drag the application into your applications folder. Once that's there, find where MySQL Workbench is installed. Double click, launch it. The first thing we're going to do is create a new connection. So I'm going to drop down here. Okay, I need to come up. I need to give it a connection name. So I'm going to call this simple demo connection. And the host name, we need to get that from AWS. So we'll come up here, we will select on our available instance. Must be available to do this. And we're going to copy paste. We don't need the port number because by default it's already in MySQL Workbench. Okay, so we're going to jump back down here to MySQL Workbench, and for the host name we're going to put that value that we just got from AWS. Okay, for the username we're going to grab the username and password that we put into our stickies. And I guess with OS X, they know once you sort the keychain, and I'm fine with that. So that's there. Let's test our connection, make sure it's good. Yep, so all of our connection parameters are correct. We will say OK, save it. Now we're going to go ahead and open the connection. And what we're going to do next is actually create two tables. The two tables that we're going to create are cat and dog. So I'm going to give it a name of cat. And for my column, I'm going to give it an ID, tab over, and if you give a column name of ID, it will automatically make it a primary key that it cannot be null. I also want it to be unique, and I want it to be auto increment. Okay, let's give our cat a name. That's a varchar. We'll take that default. And a birth date. And for that, by the way, I'm tabbing over into that. I'm going to give that a date time value. And let's do an apply so that we actually create our table with those columns. Always review the SQL code to make sure that everything is what you expect to see. And everything looks good there to me, so I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. Life is good. We'll hit OK, and I'm going to create a second table called dog. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Auto increment, unique. Give the dog a name. Take the default. Give it a birth date. And we're going to give it a date time. And apply. Review the code. All the SQL looks good. Okay, so I kind of lied. I'm going to do one more table here. This one I'm going to do for appointments. And we're going to kind of simulate a veterinary clinic once we do this in AWS Lambda. So this one's going to be appointment, the table. And again, I'd like to do an ID for everything, primary, unique, unique, auto increment. In case you heard me say, oops, I looked down here, you can also click on these to make sure you choose the right ones. For this one, I'm going to give it a pet ID, which will be the ID of our pet table. We don't know what that's going to be, which it'll be a pet or a cat or a dog yet, but we'll just leave it there. We will say that it cannot be null. How's that? And we will also give it a transaction. I just call it transaction. And for this one, we're going to make it an int. And this one cannot be null. All right, so we're going to hit apply. Everything looks good. Close. There we have it. We just created an AWS MySQL database. We then connected to that database from MySQL Workbench and created a few tables. That's the end of my very simple tutorial on AWS and MySQL. I am David Ellig. I'm a developer with a company called InfoTrust. They specialize in digital marketing, and this is my email address. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. And of course, InfoTrust website is there. So thank you again for joining me.